think I'm going to do away with the intro. Like, we're just going to kind of just roll into a casual conversation. You know, not low energy, but just cash vibes. You know what I mean? Like, this is the Console Crusade podcast. And what that really means is just you and I having a conversation with each other. Like, a couple of bubs may do from time to time. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I exclusively do low energy. So I'm sipping on this coffee, trying to trick myself into being more energetic.
That's your shtick. I, my friend, am sipping on little Knob Creek bourbon.
That leftover?
Nah, I hit the liquor store about noon today. Got myself a little glass of that Crater Lake stuff that John was sipping on at the beach, but this is the Reserve. A little bit nicer.
And what was his? His was just like the mass-produced stuff, I'm guessing? I don't know. I don't know how whiskey works.
The Reserve is aged a year longer.
They just put it in a different bottle and charge more for it.
It's more potent. It's like 96 proof.
Why even get that high of a proof of a whiskey, you know? Whiskey's more of like a sipping liquor. Kind of want to top out at like 80, I would think.
I've honestly had much harsher whiskeys at a much lower alcohol content than this.
Well, that's more about to do with like the ethanol content, right? Or like there's different alcohols in the alcohol, and it's about those have different flavor profiles and everything. It's like getting really cheap vodkas, like gross, super gross. There's a big difference between Grey Goose and HRD.
Yeah, I'm not a vodka guy. That's for damn sure. But this is not nearly as smooth as the one that we were sipping on at the beach, which is disappointing. I was like, oh, the Reserve is on sale. I'll try that. I imagine it'll be stronger and smoother, which sounds contradictory, but in my experience, not. But anyway, that's what I'm sipping on. It's good. It's tasty. Gonna make for a good podcast.
Just sipping neat.
Yeah, well, I've got the two neat, and then I've got me a little glass of Ezra Brooks with some ginger ale.
Ooh,
a little ginger ale. You know what I'm saying? Why am I talking?
Did he get you some whiskey stones?
I've got a bag of them in the freezer, and you know I've used them, but I'm a neat whiskey guy. Like that's how I've always preferred it.
You ever use like a chilled glass or just everything straight lukewarm?
Just straight room temp, my guy. I don't believe there is a proper way to drink whiskey. I'm not like a snob about it. It's whatever you like. The thing about ice for me, like I would rather just dilute it with some water. Like I don't want a giant ice cube that's gonna like with time change what I'm drinking. At least with water, what you're drinking in the first sip is what you're drinking in the last sip. With ice, it just continually changes, and I don't like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm either a neat or, you know, if you prefer to put a little cold water in there, that's fine. I won't hate you for it.
You got to get one of those the charcoal activated water.
I don't live in Portland anymore. Okay, I'm not hip enough for that.
You just drink your smart water.
Listen, can I be honest with you, man? I only get the smart water because I love the bottle it comes in.
You're a sucker for that big tall bottle.
Brand allegiance, man, and I'm all about brand. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. But I'm a big sucker for branding.
Oh yeah, I mean that's like I get that. It's design.
Yeah, that's the nicest bottle of water on the rack. For 40 cents more, you bet your ass I'm gonna get the tall, skinny bottle with a nice label. It's going down every time.
What's the name of the other bottled water that's also similar form factor, but it's more just a cylinder? Like it has the flat top cap, and they also have ones that are glass bottles. Voss, is that Voss?
Yeah, Voss.
It's pretty good marketing too. I mean, it looks pretty good.
The glass vessel really confuses and intimidates me. So I just...
Yeah, I mean, knowing you and the way you put things down, you're very likely to break it.
Yeah, there's a middle ground for me where it's like I can't have an uncovered vessel and I don't want anything too breakable, right? The two ends of the spectrum. I just need a nice non-breakable covered glass cup container of some kind for my liquids.
How do you feel about metal water bottles? Do you have a preference or a distaste to them? I feel like that's kind of a... You either really like it or you really hate it.
You know, historically, metal water bottles leave a lot to be desired as far as the user experience goes. You got to twist the top off, then the water tastes fucking weird because it's been in this aluminum cylinder, and it's just...
So do you have an aversion to the taste then, is what you're saying?
But here's the thing, though. In my years, I have noticed that metal water bottles have come a long way. Like... One of my buddy's ex-girlfriends left a hydro flask in my car, and you bet she ain't getting that shit back. I actually enjoy it. My only issue with it is that it's got this twist off top that is not convenient for me.
They have different tops for the hydro flask specifically. Like you can get the ones that have the flip down straw. It's dependent on what you're using it for, because like the Hydro Flask, it's got the vacuum sealed like barrier, so it keeps your hot drinks hot for super long. Same with your cold drinks. So if you're doing like a tea, you're not going to be sipping that out of a straw, or like a hot coffee. You know?
Right. No, I get the multi-purpose nature.
So since you're more of a water boy, you're just trying to be hydrated. So you can buy different caps. You can get them on Amazon.
I'll have to take a look at that then, because traditionally I always use just a plastic like 32-ounce bottle there's a button in the back that just opens a mouthpiece.
Right.
And it's just a little cute little gate that flips down, and it's, there's no twisting, there's no turning, there's no accidental spillage. I used one for a while in between. So what happened was my brand, I had 3 of the same water bottles, and eventually they all broke. Couldn't find any more anywhere. So I transitioned to the same brand, different top. And the top was more like it was just a circle, and you hit a button in the back, and the whole top flipped off like a fucking cask or something. I don't know. Just, you know what I'm saying? The whole thing flips up like a little trap door. And that was okay. Like,
how was the mouthpiece on that though? Because if it's too broad, then you got liquids dripping off the sides of your cheeks. You look like a sloven piece of crap.
Right. No, it wasn't too wide. It was pretty narrow mouthpiece. But what happened, and the day I officially retired it in the parking lot of the college I was going to, was I was getting out of my car, and as I always do, I got my backpack in my passenger seat. I hop out my car, and then I kind of lean back in and grab my backpack. Well, I did that. Apparently knocked the water bottle on the door frame, slung it around my back, and then bent over to pick something up or tie my shoe. The whole fucking lid came out and dumped the entire fucking bottle of water just all over my head and neck and down my shirt. And this is as I'm heading to class, and I just fucking took the thing and I chucked it in the parking lot and I left it there to die. And I was into that.
You abandoned it in the parking lot?
Yeah. And then I ended up finding that brand of water bottle again at a Target. Eventually found it on Amazon, went through a few more, and then most recently got a brand new one and left it at work. And I know I left it at work, and I see it at work every day in the same spot in the kitchen where somebody put it about 6 months ago. And it's still in the kitchen right there. And every day I think, I should get that and wash it and start using it again. But for some reason, I find it more convenient for me to walk from the other side from my office to the kitchen to take, 12 breaks a day to fill my plastic cup. So really, it's more of a convenience factor for me. It's like, well, I need to get water. I got to stay hydrated.
Yeah, it's the convenience of you taking more time to walk back and forth. I can respect that. a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, we're already off the rails, but this is a preface to what's happening in this podcast, Nick, because there's been virtually no video game news. You and I just spent a couple days at the beach together with the boys.
Yeah, and we could have recorded there, but at the same time, we also couldn't have.
We couldn't have.
It was too much time, like you said, spending with the boys, and there was no way we could possibly get a 3 or 4 person podcast going with one mic at the beach with the drunken debauchery that was occurring. It would have been like a 10 times worse version of the podcast with Leaf and Drew.
And listen, again, kudos if you got through that thing. Shout out to my boy Kevin Gilgan. Go check out Gilganizer on Twitter.
It was fun, but it's not what I want to do every week.
No, definitely not. And it was like, maybe we could have gotten away with it on the second night when there was a lull. You and Dre and I could have done it, but here's the thing.
Nothing happened. We had nothing to talk about.
But we did play some games. You played a little Dark Souls, and I played a little Mario Party with the boys. It was good. So we're just kind of gonna maybe just talk some shit here. It's real casual. It's real casual this week.
Yeah, I even brought my SP with me to the beach and got to chip away a couple more hours at Golden Sun Lost Age.
Lost Age.
That was my go-to for the car ride, because on the way to the beach, my Switch was dead, and also Dark Souls needed a patch. So I was just sabotaged from the get-go. But you don't patch an SP game. That's this lives in the cartridge.
For better or worse. Listen, before the beach, I dug out my modded Game Boy Advance.
It's so slick. The more I think about it, the more I wish I had that same exact mod. Except what I would want would be the additional lithium-ion battery pack.
Oh, right.
Inside the console. I know you're not really about that life, but the longer I get in the tooth, the less I want to change AA batteries.
No, I totally agree with you. It was just a price thing. And I'm very staunchly against aftermarket parts for the most part. Again, I made an exception for things like the Switch Joy-Con shell replacements. Those feel really good. If, again, the shells are good if you're using the OEM buttons, right, and pads and triggers and stuff. With Game Boy parts, when I initially did, I did a couple versions of that mod, and then I bought one. Actually, I bought two. But if you're using aftermarket buttons, it just feels like shit. Aftermarket case, anything, it's garbage.
Yeah, that's my biggest like drawback to wanting the wide format Game Boy Advance is that it's got the squishy buttons, and I love the clicky buttons on the SP, dude.
No, so I agree with you. The buttons on the SP are much nicer, but the original Game Boy Advance, if it's in nice condition and it's all original manufacturer parts, they're not mushy. It's a different tactile response.
It's definitely mushy in comparison to the way the SP works, and it's just a different mechanism too, where I don't know if you've ever broken up, like you saw it on the Joy-Cons too, but with the clicky buttons, the actual, it's not a contact on the back of the plastic button that pushes against the board. It's just an all-in-one, like it's almost like bubble tape
right
on the board itself that the button pushes into and activates. It's just a different kind of mechanism. I don't know what the failure rate for that is, but I mean, I just love the clicky buttons. That's why I like the original DS more than the DS Lite, in addition to the form factor, just feeling more comfortable in my hands. But I wish I could get the best of both worlds, where you get the wide set Game Boy Advance, where my fingers aren't interlocking and my like pinky goes numb because I'm stupid and I put my arms in a way like a T-Rex playing Game Boy.
Right.
But then also get the clicky buttons. That would be ideal for me. And that glass screen, you got the glass screen, right?
Oh, of course. Beautiful.
Boy.
That's really gorgeous. When I think of mushy, I think of something that doesn't have good travel or response. I agree with you that the buttons are softer, but they still have really good feedback. Like you depress them and they come back to you. The response is good. It still feels good if you have fresh pads. Once it gets worn down, where it's like the SP, once it gets worn down, it's still clicky.
Like you said, I think it depends mostly on the travel distance. Like I feel like Game Boys and Game Boy Advances have never felt like they were mushy per se. It's just that they're squishy as opposed to clicky.
Sure.
But I think the SNES, you've had more problems with SNES gamepads feeling mushier as they degrade. And I feel like the travel distance on those are to the point where I don't really notice it. Like I kind of see, like I feel it in the D-pad, but not necessarily in the buttons. As long as there's a clear delineation about whether or not it's actually pressed or not activated, then it's not too bad for me.
I tell you, man, I replaced the pads on one of my Super Nintendo controllers, and it was amazing. You didn't like it. I remember you not liking it.
Yeah, it was stiff. I'm sure once it was worn in, it'd be like just like having an old school, Super Nintendo controller, which obviously I haven't had a new Super Nintendo controller since I got my Super Nintendo in 1994 or whatever.
Right.
Just those 8-bit-do controllers, which seem like a really good facsimile.
Like earlier I said, I was very strict about making sure that my modded Game Boy Advance was strictly original parts from an original Game Boy Advance outside of the backlight, right? And so that's what I have. Finally, like I said, I modded a few different versions, buying some different parts out of eBay. I bought some on eBay, like complete models.
You didn't use a 101 screen?
No, there is a 101 screen, yes.
Okay, so what do you mean by the backlight then?
No, I'm saying the backlight's the only part of the Game Boy Advance that is not an original part from the original Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
Whereas before I had different buttons, different pads, different shells, different types of screens. Of course, the glass screen's also not original, but it's much nicer.
I don't know how widely this is just anecdotal, but my Game Boy Advance SP, the shell is not OEM, it's aftermarket. Same with the buttons, but all of the important parts are in the board itself. So like the activation is the exact same. So no problems there.
I also modded out my Game Boy Advance SP modded. I swapped the shell because, I got some 101 at a garage sale, which just beat the shit. And I swapped the shell out for something slick and brand new. And that was all fine.
What's weird is the OEM shells are worse than the aftermarket ones in a lot of ways because the OEM shells are all painted. And a lot of the aftermarket ones are like a black plastic all the way through or a red plastic all the way through. So if it gets scratched, it's not going to be super noticeable.
Right. And again, I use the original buttons, the original pads with the original board and all that. So it's like you can't tell the shell is not original. It even comes with a little sticker on the back. So unless you know what you're looking for, it looks like it's straight out of the box.
And if you're super anal, you could even do like a heat gun or a hair dryer to peel off your old sticker and then reapply it.
That's a step too far. I don't care that much. Like I just want it to look nice.
Who are you trying to fool?
Yeah, I don't need to deceive anybody.
This is there for the tactile response because that sticker's got a different texture than the rest of the case.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I bring that up just because, when I was doing these mods, it was 5 years ago. This is 2013, 2014 that I was doing a lot of this. Now, there are companies that will do this for you, and they have some really cool mods where it's not just the screen replacement and the glass screen as opposed to the plastic, but also, the battery pack and
The stereo sound.
the stereo sound mod, because the sound on the Game Boy Advance sucks. It's fuzzy, it's crackly. You can't listen with headphones.
Well, the sound sucks, but the speaker sucks also. I mean, that's two
Right.
different things. But it compounds to make it sound even worse when you're playing it handheld.
Right.
And the SP doesn't even have a headphone jack. They were the brave ones before Apple was.
Yeah, right. Bringing in a new era. It's the output, then the speaker module itself that you can't even use headphones because it's so fuzzy and crackly. Even with headphones, it's just useless. So I kind of want to look at getting a new Game Boy Advance or further modding the one I have, just because I'm so happy with the one I have already. But they also do one where they have there's an actuator. I'm not sure if that's the right word on the board, and if you solder the power right, you get the brighter 101 setting, which by default, and with the standard setup with the ribbon cable and everything, you can't do that. You get the dimmer setting, which is still
really
infinitely better than not having it. And I tried to do this back in the days. I tried soldering it to the other contact point and messing with that actuator and tried to dial in the second brightness setting, but something about the power, I don't know enough about electronics and all that to know why it doesn't work. But now there are like ribbon adapters for that motherboard that let you do that.
Right.
And choose the higher brightness setting if you want. So I'm looking at maybe doing. Did you hear that?
That little car go by?
Fuck, that was the loudest car that's ever gone by my office. Jesus. But anyway, so I say all this because Nick, maybe this will be a little something we look into down the road here. Maybe I'll treat myself for Christmas, and maybe I'll treat a little co-host of mine for Christmas. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, no, I don't know what you're saying.
I've also honestly considered, I really want a Game Boy Micro.
Yeah, I know you've been talking about that. I cannot imagine that being a good experience with you and your giant meat mitts. You know,
meat mitts. I have fucking huge hands.
Game Boy with wearing baseball gloves.
You know, but here's the thing though. When it comes to computer mice, I have always preferred very tiny mice because I have just a weird grip. And obviously a Game Boy and the form factor of a handheld gaming device is so much different than what you do when you're using a computer mouse. But it's just because it's small doesn't mean that it won't be compatible. It just depends on the form factor and how it's being used. The SP is too narrow. The Game Boy Micro, I imagine, is a little bit wider than the original SP.
No way. I feel like the Game Boy Micro is the same width as the SP. It just has a smaller screen.
Oh, it does have a smaller
the screen size is like 2/3 the size of the standard Game Boy Advance screen. So you get that nice pixel density. I think you just get a wider array of brightnesses. I think it does have a higher max brightness. So you can play that thing in sunlight and the screen will blind you more than the sun would.
I think I'm talking on my butt here, but I think it also does away with the ghosting that the original or the 101 screen has. It does have really bad ghosting.
They diminished that with each iteration. Like the original SP had less ghosting than the 001. I think the original AGB numbering was. But I think part of what makes playing on the Game Boy Advance great is the ghosting. I think that a lot of games were designed with that in mind. Yeah. Especially on the original Game Boy, that was used as a transparency effect, as they would flicker between two different interlacing kind of grids, so you could get water effects that way. And I like the ghosting. I think it's a feature, not a bug.
Isn't it strange where it's definitely because it's only present in the backlit model, and it's because of the type of screen they're using. But when you're playing it, it almost does sort of it's so minor. It's not like ghosting a really shitty computer monitor or something. It's so subtle. It really does seem like it's just a smoothing effect.
It's really authentic, and it's even the way the pixels are laid out, because there's a pretty noticeable screen door effect on the screen where the pixel distance from each other is higher than what you're used to with a computer monitor, or especially something super dense like your phone. But that adds to it, I think. That's something that I even try to get when I'm emulating on a computer. That's why you do the CRT filters, because it pretends like it adds that gap to the pixels, and that's what the original experience is all about.
Isn't it funny what we forgive or even expect or even desire when we're talking about retro gaming and some of these older experiences where it's, today it'd be totally unforgivable, and understandably so, but when you go back And again, it's like we could play a perfect version of this, right? Where I could play a pixel perfect version when on the SNES Classic or on the Switch Online NES games. We can play pixel perfect, but it's like I don't want that. I want it to be as closely related to the original experience, not just what I remember, but again, what these developers intended, because they took these things into account when developing. There are plenty of games from the NES and Super Nintendo era that specifically they designed their sprites with interlacing of home televisions. Like they took that into account when designing the pixel art. So when you're playing it pixel perfect, you are not getting what those designers originally intended, which is kind of trippy to think about.
Totally. I mean, that was the only good thing about the Wii U gamepad was that it had such a crappy LCD inside of it that it playing the old like Game Boy Advance games on there and Virtual Console was like so close to the original experience that it was like, that was super nice. I remember playing through Fusion on my Wii U just a few years ago.
Oh, the Wii U. Rip in peace, my friend. I played the Wii U. I'm trying to think. Probably more still to this point than I have my Switch. Maybe not quite. Maybe I play my Switch more because I went pretty hard on Zelda and I went pretty hard on Skyrim and I went pretty hard on, Mario Kart and
Mario Odyssey.
Mario Odyssey I beat, yeah. So I probably play my Switch more at this point, but my Wii U was really consistent for me from like 2014 to probably the beginning of 2016. It was a good 2 years where it was like, that's pretty much all I played, that and PC.
Yeah, it was a good purchase for me, especially since the 2 years that I was playing it the most were the 2 years that I was living with like 5 other people.
Oh yeah, perfect.
And that's a party game machine. So spent a lot of time playing Smash Bros. And Mario Kart.
That was the one thing I missed from our beach trip this weekend, man. It's the first year we haven't had Smash Bros. 5 years with the boys.
Dude, gotta blame legs, dude.
My fucking brother, that piece of shit. I was packing the night before I left on fucking Wednesday night, and I call him and say, hey, can you bring the Wii U? Because mine was all disconnected and the cables were in one spot and the game was in one spot. And it was just like, I know he knows where it's at his place, right? At his place. The motherfucker lives with my parents and my 9-year-old brother.
Their place.
Yeah, their place. So I was like, hey, can you bring it? He said, yeah, I'll bring it. Okay. Perfect. I said, now bring your controllers. I have one adapter. I've got 4 controllers and a Wavebird. Bring X, Y, and Z. Okay, we worked it all out. I'm at the goddamn beach Thursday by 6 o'clock. The fucker texts me Friday at 9, right after he leaves Portland. And he says, yeah, so I didn't bring the Wii U because Daniel's the 9-year-old. Daniel has it hooked up right now. And I was like, Daniel doesn't have shit because he's 9. It's not his, nor did he hook it up, nor does he play it because it's the current year and he has a Switch and a DS and an iPad and a fucking whatever. So I said, unhook the damn thing so we can play Smash Bros. And not a response. He shows up, doesn't even fucking mention it. I'm like, dude, are you serious? This is the first year. And how long that we all didn't just congregate around the TV and just yell at each other playing Smash Bros. Instead, we congregate around the TV yelling at basketball the whole weekend. Okay.
Are you complaining?
No.
You watched 2 basketball games at the same time.
Dude, we had 2 TVs going. We're at the beach, right? This is a byproduct of getting a beach house that is, it's driving distance from the beach. You can't just walk down. You have to take a carload of people down, find public parking, and then trek down to the beach. So instead, we just have a beautiful view and a really nice house, and we get the TVs going, and we drink some alcohol, and we fucking eat some shitty food, and it's a grand old time. I have 0 complaints.
Yeah, that's a great vacation, dude.
I'm at a point, Nick. We're adults, okay? We can do this twice a year if we want to. I'm at a point where once a year is not enough. Like we need a summer trip and a winter trip, right? Like,
I mean, this wasn't a summer trip, so what's next? Spring trip?
This year was a little. Just my summer was crazy with work, and honestly, I was like, I just don't know if the beach is going to happen this year. And then I thought to myself, like, man.
It has to happen.
It has to happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's gotten to a point where, I don't see John. I see him a few times a year. I see Max even less now. Like, I see you. I see you every time I come back to Portland. You're my go-to boy. But, it's like...
All reliable.
Right? It's like, who am I going to eat Thai food with if not Nick? Right? Who am I going to talk video games with if not Nick?
Who's going to get spicy fried basil rice with you?
Dude, you're my guy. But anyway, I was just like, the beach is, it's an institution at this point. Half a decade running. We all get to see each other. Literally, some of those guys only see some of the other guys once a year, and that's at the beach. It's like, all right, the beach has to happen, even if it is the end of fucking October. Anyway, it happened. It was great. But you know what? One of the games that I played at the beach, Nick, that I want to talk about before you jump into Dark Souls is Mario Party. And let me tell you, Mario Party is a game I have never played. I played one round of it on the Wii U, but by all accounts, that was not a proper Mario Party game, or a good one at least.
Highly derided.
Yeah, so I had never played N64 or GameCube or anything. So this is really my first experience. Dude, fuck that game so hard in multiple ways. Okay, part of my issue with it is probably because I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was jumping into a game that everyone I was playing with has been playing. They knew the board, they knew the strategies, they knew the best characters, the best allies, the fucking whatever. So I was totally blind. I'm just like, higher roll is better, right? It's like Monopoly. The further you go, the better you do. That's not true. There are diverging paths, and you kind of have to know the board and know what the whole point is and where you need to get to. And it's ever changing. You know, the point of Mario Party, right, is to have the most stars at the end of the game.
No, I mean, sure.
Sure. The point of the game is to beat your friends and rub it in their faces.
The point of the game is to have something to do while you're playing mini games, in my opinion, you know?
Okay. So I'd be curious then to know how involved the mini games were in prior iterations, because this, I felt was about 75% just watching other people roll a die and then rolling your own die and moving on a game board, right? 25% of the time was actually playing mini games that really weren't that good and were very, very short. Like, I feel like that was very ancillary to the whole experience, and I was kind of disappointed with that. There was a point, I mean, I just checked out and was on my phone until someone yelled at me that A, it was my turn, or B, there was a mini game. Like, I was a little let down by that. It felt like that was not the primary component of this experience.
In my experience, that's the main game mode, but from what I've seen of this games, there's different modes. Like there's a 2v2 kind of team up mode that's a little bit less about, you know, like rolling a dice and moving around a board, and more about strategically placing your characters, because it's just on a grid.
Right.
And the grid populates with different like power-ups and items, and it's more about just like, okay, you go over here, then I'll go over here, and then we can steal their item and do the thing. And then it's, you know, the mini games again. There's also like mini game, like basically like boss rush modes, but with mini games. I don't know, but in my experience, it's just about the chaos and it's a party game, like a pure and simple party game. If you're trying to win at Mario Party, you've already lost.
That seems to be a running theme for Nintendo games, I feel like.
I guess. I mean, they do competitive games. I mean, Smash Bros is more competitive, but it's also a party game. You know, it depends on if you play with items and you're playing timed, you're playing coin battle, or if you're playing, you know, stock 1v1, Fox's only Final Destination, right?
Right.
That gives you a little bit more leeway. Or like Splatoon is by all means a pick up and play kind of easy online experience, but you can play in the ranked modes and the more competitive stuff and really get that itch scratched if that's what you're seeking. I won't let you totally besmirch Nintendo in that aspect.
Okay.
Because honestly, the only platform holder that really makes competitive games is Microsoft, and look how well it's doing for them. Look how great Gears is now and Halo is now. Everyone really loves those games, right?
Fair. I also had that experience with the Jackbox games we played this weekend. You know, the Jackbox games are really only as good as the group you're playing with.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Not just how invested they are, but also like, do they grasp the point of the game?
It's a platform for which people are playing to an audience. And if you don't know your audience, or if you're trying to appeal to one audience over another, then this is not going to land as well. It's going to, devolve into lol so random dick jokes. And if that's not what you're into, then you're not going to be served in that way.
It's not even just like, is that what I'm into? It's like someone who doesn't get the point of the game, they just put LOL dick balls or I don't fucking know as an answer. It's like what's the goddamn point of this? It kind of takes the wind out of your sails, especially when you're used to really good play groups who get the point of the game, but who also understand the people they're playing with. And there's like this perfect confluence of elements that go into like just having a really good time and laughing while also playing within the confines of what the game is presenting. Whereas like Drawful is just like, oh, I'm just going to draw penises. Haha, that's a penis. You win. Like, that's just like, that's not fun. And if it's fun for them, that's cool. But it's so not cool for me. And that's why, we had a moment we were playing where I totally kind of checked out. And Max thought it was because I got roasted on one of the answers. That's not true. I've been roasted so much worse before. It's funny. It's okay getting roasted. I just was like, it's just not very fun. And then I checked out. And everyone got mad that I checked out, Nick.
Well, yeah, because you then compounded onto the problem, which, you know, if some people get like bad prompts and they don't know what to do with it, then like that's bad enough. But then when one person isn't voting on literally any of the answers, you became the face of that problem. So of course everyone's going to zero in on you. I zeroed in on you too because I knew you were checked out and I knew you were grumpy, but you still continued to play. And I think you got disconnected because you weren't voting anymore and Jackbox decided to kick you out.
Yeah, finally. No, what happened was I completely closed my browser. I thought like by doing that, I would leave the game. And I wasn't. I was just like, I'm going to go back to just browsing my phone and watching the Laker game.
You should have told me that you didn't want to play anymore. We could have like started a new game without you and then it wouldn't have been.
Well, that's what I was going to say is you guys were yelling at me for like 4 rounds. And I'm like, dude, I'm not fucking playing. Like, why do y'all keep pressing the same player? But then I got back into it at the end. And so whatever, it worked out. Everyone had a good time.
And you weren't not playing. Every time you got the new round started, you would answer your prompts.
I
So
bet
you were playing. You just weren't. You're just being selfish. Really, that's what that boiled down to.
Okay, fair enough.
So you should have said something. I didn't know if you were actually being an obstinate asshole or if you literally didn't want to play because you're sending mixed signals in that regard.
Well, you guys would yell at me, so I'd be like, fine, I'll fucking put my answer in. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm done playing. I didn't realize you guys had to wait for the timer to count down because I wasn't voting. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. So we got the full like, way too long. Yeah.
Listen, everyone had a good time. At least I hope so. Everyone seemed to have a good time. So,
Yeah. I mean,
no complaints.
I feel like that's a common theme with party games is that you don't stop playing a party game when everyone's still having fun. You stop playing the party game after everyone's burnt out.
Right.
So you start strong and then it just totally devolves.
It was funny because I still ended up winning despite completely checking out.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
And you're like,
you know, the game's not about winning. The game's about being funny and having fun and laughing.
I had fun and I
It
laughed.
looked like you were having fun. Looked like you were scrolling through NBA Twitter,
I was.
checking up on a fight.
That was a good
Instead
fight.
of, you know, participating in the game that you had a social contract to participate in.
At any point, you could have booted me out.
I don't think I could.
But you didn't.
Jackbox did.
Well, no, what happened was I tried to join back. They didn't kick me out. Like I closed my browser. And so the Jackbox still thought I was in the game. But when I joined from a new browser, new whatever, it put me in the audience. So I was in the game and in the audience. Like, what the fuck was that? So that was fun.
I don't know. But yeah, it was mostly fine. I wish that we would have been in a group that enjoyed Fibbage more because I still really, really like Fibbage, but it's more, you have to be more dedicated to the premise as opposed to Quiplash where they do a lot of the work for you and you just have to say something funny.
Right.
And then I like Drawful a lot because it combines the two. It gives your audience interaction is a lot more involved than just the person drawing and then deciding between two options, you know?
This is an interesting beach trip because, again, normally we have like one console and we're all playing everything together. Whereas this is the first year that we went that everybody had a Switch.
Yeah, there were a lot of Switches there. I think there were 6.
Cody had a Switch. My brother had a Switch. You, me, fucking Mitch, Andrew, and Max. The 7 Switches. A lot of Switches. And so whether we were playing games together or not, like everyone kind of did their own thing. At one point, I've got a picture of you guys just lined up on the dining room table, all playing your Switches simultaneously, but independently of each other. Yeah. And you're just like, just a couple of boys hanging out together, playing some Dark Souls.
Yeah, it's a LAN party without all the cords.
Yeah, I mean, and the Switch is fucking wonderful for that reason. But you guys have been playing Dark Souls, came out last week. Mm-hmm. You guys all bought it day of, drove out to the beach, and then had to try to connect to the shitty Wi-Fi to download the day one update. Give me a little breakdown on kind of your experience having already played the original Dark Souls, beaten the original Dark Souls. No, you only beaten 3. You haven't beaten 1.
I've beaten 3. I've gotten to the Beta Chaos in Dark Souls 1, which was if you play the game, then you would know how far that is. But basically, the game's broken up into a few different acts. I don't know exactly how much more there is after that because it gets to a point where it splits into 3 different paths, basically. And you can take on the bosses in any order you want. And I was going into a place that's called the Demon Ruins. And it's this magma-filled volcano area, basically. And I was working towards that.
So you're going to beat it now that it's on the Switch, correct?
Ideally. I mean, I would really like to. I got about as far as I've gotten 2 separate times on the PC. And I don't remember why I re-rolled, but I just decided, it's been too long. I want to start again.
Oh yeah, I know.
And now it's gotten to the point where after Dark Souls announced for Switch, I was like, you know what, I'll buy that because of course I will. And maybe this will be the time that I actually go through and beat it. So now at this point, I'm at the Capra Demon, who's a huge pain in the ass every time I've played through to this point. So he's kind of like the first, like really annoyingly difficult boss in the game. And I just haven't played since the beach really. I booted it up yesterday and was dicking around in the Dark Root basin, the weird cool forest area, but just sort of putting it off and leveling up and picking up whatever items I can while I'm just sort of, poking around the woods.
Sure. To be fair, it's funny you say I haven't played since the beach. You got home from the beach yesterday, and then you slept, went to work, woke up, and now we're recording. So it's like I haven't played since way back then.
I mean, I've had
12 hours ago.
opportunities to. I played for, I think, half an hour last night before I went to work, just to see it on the TV and have an experience. Because at the beach, the entire time I was just playing on handheld,
right?
Or on my little stand and using my controller to have a little bit better time with it. Because Dark Souls, there's a lot of you're walking around a lot as opposed to running around a lot or jogging around a lot,
right?
Because you want to sneak up on enemies. Dark Souls is basically a horror game.
Oh yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Makes a lot of sense. I played I think I beat the first boss in Dark Souls 1 on PC. I modded it out at your behest.
I can't remember if I asked you this, but you just did the tutorial boss, or did you get to the boss after that on the bridge?
I don't remember. I just remember a big round guy with wings, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's the tutorial boss.
Okay, is that right? He's like a big nutsack dragon.
Yeah, it's the Asylum Demon.
Yeah, so that's the tutorial boss. Okay, yeah. I mean, I was like, all right. I found the controls to be a little obtuse, and I suck at those kind of games. I don't have the patience for it.
Yeah, it's a lot of one-on-one combat and trying to kite enemies into a way that you're only taking them on one at a time. There's a lot of strategy to it as opposed to just being empowered. But at the same time, it's really cool because once you do level up really high and you get like really cool weapons and get kitted out with your dank armors, then when you go back to an earlier area and you just kill everyone with one swing, it makes you feel really powerful. But it makes you feel like you've earned that power. So I really appreciate it for that reason. On
Twitter the other day, a friend of the podcast, Brennan Dreyer, was asking Dre, how does it run? And on Switch. And I find that question sort of redundant at this point because just by nature of the console, I think it's a given that if a game's coming to it and it's a port or a remaster, it's going to run worse, it's going to look worse, right?
Well, the thing is that the original version didn't run very well in specific areas.
Okay.
Like really badly. Like in an area called Blighttown, you're underground, you're climbing around all these ladders. It would drop down to like 12 frames a second.
Oh, wow.
Like consistently.
On all versions?
On the 360 at least. I don't know about PS3.
Wow.
At PC, it was a huge like CPU hog. It was bottlenecked really heavily. So even if you were running a high-end PC, you would still experience frame drops. It was just a problem, endemic with the game. But with this release, it's improved to the point where you're running solid 30 the entire game on Switch. And the Switch even has higher resolution than the original Dark Souls on 360 because that was a game that was putting out. I was watching the Digital Foundry video, and they're saying that the original 360 version was putting out at 720 by 1024. So a different aspect ratio. So this is a rare instance where a port or a remaster is running better than the original game in almost all ways, and in some cases even looking better. That's very surprising, but that's cool that they revisited this title and actually put some TLC into it and didn't just say, here's a quick and shitty port, which honestly, when it comes to bigger studios and bigger name studios, if you're getting a port, it's going to be competent. And whether it's competent on day of or it's competent 3 months later, like they'll get there, right? Smaller studios, not so much. There have been some issues with smaller, indie games and certain things running and looking like shit on the Switch. But realistically, again, if it's, Bethesda or I'm trying to think of some of the other companies that have been porting games over, but well, it depends on who they have do the port job. Like you said, Bethesda, the Skyrim port was done by not Bethesda, and like the Wolfenstein and Doom ports were done by a different company.
Bethesda is in charge of the whole operation, and you can trust that a company like that is going to ensure that there is a quality playable version of their title on any given console.
Well, even the Switch version was delayed by like, oh man, it's been like 6 months since that came out on PS4 and Xbox. I think that was May. That was like 5 months ago.
No, I mean, it's understandable that it takes time to port these things, but I'm just saying, like, you can trust that you are going to get a quality iteration, right?
This is weird because they had it playable like as early as June, I think. They had it playable at E3 maybe. I feel like it was playable a long time ago, and we don't know what caused the delay, because having it pushed back this far is like really annoying, because it seems like, well, it was announced initially in a direct that the remaster was even happening. So Nintendo got that like marketing deal, but then having that come out last on Switch, when really, if you have a PS4 and Xbox One, Dark Souls 1 was the only one of the trilogy that you couldn't play on those platforms. I think Xbox One had it on backwards compatibility, but having the remaster was like cool, but it was really Switch owners that were pushing for it because they're hungry for that experience, and it hasn't come to a Nintendo platform before. And having it handheld, that's like a really, like, obviously that's like a really cool thing to do for a last gen game. And having it just up-resed and have like worse lighting effects doesn't make the game a better experience. People have been doing that on PC for years.
Right.
People were really mad about the PC port of the remaster because of what it ruined from the mod. And like, it didn't fix anything. It kept all the same old like bugs and hacks that people were doing with the online multiplayer, which clearly you can't really do as easily on console, but like a PC, that's a problem with the platform, right? So it's just been a really weird kind of scenario with the Dark Souls port in particular. But I was glad that it has a constant frame rate. And I prefer the, if you look at it side by side with like the lighting with the PS4 version versus the Switch version, the PS4 is more bright. There's like more realistic lighting effects, but
right.
It's a stylistic thing at a point where stylistically the PS4 and Xbox One versions just, they look washed out and weird, especially in like cutscenes.
I mean, that's certainly an aesthetic thing where,
right.
Where, you know, and you and I, we've even seen here where I'm a huge fan of very specific effects. Like I like the God rays, the volumetric lighting, and I want really good anti-aliasing, and you know, I want all these post-processing effects. And I think, you know, at some point it does come down to taste to a degree, but also I'm a total graphics whore. Like I want it to, you're strictly about if the game plays well, it doesn't matter what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, you want it to look as good as it can.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be mad if it looked more like the PS4 version, because it's not like I'm playing the game constantly A/Bing it between the old version and the new version, you know?
Right.
It's just nice that it looks pretty much exactly the same as the 360 version, but just a better resolution and a more consistent frame rate.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
The audio compression is really bad, but hopefully that'll be patched.
Is it really bad, or is it bad compared to the alternatives?
You have a better ear for this kind of thing. You would probably notice it as soon as you heard it. You'd be like, this sounds kind of bad.
Okay.
But if you didn't have the source file and you listened to that and then listen to the new one, if you do A/B it, it's super noticeable and it detracts. But personally, like as I'm playing it, I'm not like, dang, I wish that sounded better. It's more like occasionally there'll be like a really egregious sound effect. Like if you get a backstab on an enemy, you get like the critical hit sound where it just sounds really big and epic, but then it doesn't play the sound where you pull your sword out of their back. And that's really weird that it just wouldn't have that sound effect.
Huh.
And then it just sounds really tinny and like shallow.
Is this on, have you listened on the Switch? Have you listened on headphones? Have you listened on TV?
It's on all of it.
Okay. So you've noticed it?
Yes.
Okay. Because there have been some games where they've had audio issues, and sometimes it's noticeable, and sometimes I think it's like, okay, like...
And it's not as noticeable in handheld because the speakers are not great on the Switch. I mean, it's a handheld, you know?
Yeah.
But I can only imagine how bad it would sound on like headphones.
The only thing I'm not impressed with when it comes to the Switch's speakers is the volume. It doesn't get as loud as I want, but I am very surprised with the quality, just given the form factor and the placement and knowing how small, you know, the speaker is inside that unit. Like, honestly, pretty impressive.
Right. It's more than capable, but it's not like you're going to be like using it as your benchmark for the way a game sounds. Like you're going to pop that through some like real speakers if you want to be like, how good does this actually sound?
Yeah, and that's always the case with anything handheld. But I would argue that the Switch, and maybe I'm just talking out of my ass here and after a couple of whiskeys, but I think the Switch might have better sounding speakers than my fucking iPhone 8.
Maybe. I don't know. Does the iPhone have 2 speaker outputs? So stereo speakers?
Let's see. One speaker on the bottom and then one in the earpiece. That's much shittier. So it technically has stereo, but it's just not good. It gets loud, but
yeah, I just know there are some Android phones that, like, there's an Android phone for every discipline of like what you want out of a phone. There'll be one that focuses specifically on that, and I'm pretty sure I've seen an Android phone that's like, this thing is basically a boombox that's also a phone.
That's really cool. I mean, it's just what a small use case, right? Like, I want my speakers to be good because how often am I just taking shit and I want to listen to a YouTube video and I want it to sound decent. But like the iPhone speakers, I am legitimately unimpressed with. And my last unit, I had a phone last year, an iPhone 8 Plus, that was all crackly and shitty. And I don't know what happened. I was like, this is awful. And then I upgraded to the same phone, just a bigger size, bigger capacity a few months back. And out of the gate, no crackle, sounded a lot better. But once you blast the thing, it's just, there's no definition in any of what you're listening to. It's just a mess.
I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the housing too and how it's acoustically designed.
Right.
Not that the Switch is really acoustically designed, but I feel like most phones, the speaker's like pointing down away from it.
Yeah.
Whereas the Switch, it seems like it's pointing forward.
It's just a design flaw in any small form factor handheld device, right? But again, I think it's competent.
Just physics, you know?
It's all science, brother. But anyway, that's good. I'm glad that it's a competent point. There's no controversy outside of the sound thing. There's no, there's no warning post on Reddit saying stay away from this game.
Yeah, and like the second other big thing is that the button mapping is the same as it is on Xbox and PS4, where the confirm button is the bottom button and the back button is the right button. So pretty standard for like those platforms. But with Switch, like on a system level, A is confirm, which is the right button, and B is like back, which is the bottom button.
Right.
So it's switched around, which when you're doing a character creator and you press B to start inputting your name, and then if you press B again, it backs out. It's kind of frustrating. But beyond that, it's not a big deal. It's just something you have to like train yourself to get used to.
It's frustrating, in some ways it's like, all right, people who are playing this game are used to playing it on different platforms. So in their minds, it's like the bottom button is the A and the right button is B. But there's something, and I don't know how to explain it. I don't get it because it's the same way with someone like me who uses a PC at home and now a PC at work. We just switched to PCs for our editing rigs, but my computer is a MacBook. So it's just ingrained in me that when I'm on a PC, control. I know where my control is. I know what my hot buttons are. And when I jump to my Mac, I just know where to put my finger. And it's not like I don't have to think about it. I just know based on what I'm touching, what my hand placement has to be and what my shortcuts are. I rarely ever mess that up. Same with consoles. When I have my Switch controller, it's just, all right, I'm playing Switch. I don't think about it. The right button's my A button and the bottom button's the B button.
Took a while for you to get used to that though.
I mean, like maybe at one point in my life, but I feel like it's just so rarely been an issue for me. It's just inherent to like, all right, I'm on a Nintendo platform.
It's just a common thing that I've heard people talk about. And I figured that it was you that was like, A on the right is weird, but like it isn't for Nintendo. So.
It's not for Nintendo because that's how it's always been.
Yeah.
Not that I haven't had the problem. I've had the problem occasionally, but I just mean like more often than not, if I haven't played my Switch in 3 months and I pick up the Switch, I just automatically hit that right button. Whereas I'll be playing PlayStation for months and it's like I never, ever, ever make the mistake of hitting, circle? And like I just never, I don't know what it is. It's just this subconscious thing.
That's like the only thing. And that's, it's kind of frustrating also in addition because you can customize your controls for like the actual gameplay, but not for the way you interact with the menus.
Right.
So just a total minor complaint that in the long run is like not really that big of a deal, but it's something that I hope they could add to. I think it's just a low priority thing. I would much rather have a fixed audio patch or like a optional patch for that. If people are really, stressing about the the data on their Switch or whatever, because the game is it's under 4 gigabytes, which has the same file size as the old 360 version, but
Right.
for some reason they couldn't get the audio to fit as well, I guess.
Well, Nick, this has been sort of a meandering podcast. We've just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of off the rails, off the trails, but
Yeah, chit chat about water bottles.
right. Hey, I'm not complaining.
You're probably going to cut a lot of that out.
Honestly, no, I'm just going to cut out the fucking ums and ahs and the fucking pauses and the sneezes, but I'm going to keep it all. Fuck it. I warned them at the beginning. This is the Casual Crusade podcast.
Nice bit, dude.
I'm not worried about it. What do you think of the episode of this title? Name of this? You know what I'm fucking saying. Fuck me in the ass.
Okay, wait, what was that? Let's try that again from the top.
The episode of this title. I did it again. The title of this episode is going to be the Casual Crusade podcast. Anyway, 2 things here, Nick.
You're going to call it the episode of this title.
The episode of this title. Fuck, dude. This is the whiskey. All right. I'm trying to enunciate, try not to slur. I haven't had that much, but apparently it's enough to addle my fucking brain here. 2 things here.
I mean, I'm just teasing you because I can't even say the name of our Twitter handle, so.
I know. I can't wait for that bit. I nail that bit now, dude. I got it down the back of my fucking hand.
You're a pro. You're a regular pro, dude.
You know, dude.
Regular pro,
I can
dude.
fucking shill for our podcast. Okay. 1 bit of news and then listener mail before we close this podcast out, okay? As far as game news goes, there have been a few things, but we don't really care. The one I care about is Spider-Man just released an update in anticipation of the DLC that's going to be dropping next week.
Tomorrow.
Holy shit. Tomorrow? Oh my God. What?
Yeah, the first bit of the DLC is tomorrow. The Black Cat missions or something.
So it's all right. So tomorrow we're recording this podcast on 10/22 Monday. So tomorrow, Tuesday, this podcast release gets Wednesday. So yesterday, this DLC will come out.
Yes, time travel. Woo.
My internet's not working. I'm trying to bring up this fucking news article right now.
We're just talking about the patch with the New Game Plus and additional difficulty mode, and they added some stickers for your photo mode if you're so inclined to be artistically endeavored.
Sure. Yeah. So they released a patch that introduces New Game Plus, an ultimate difficulty level. So now we've got friendly, amazing, and spectacular.
There you go.
And now we have Ultimate Spider-Man, which it's such an obvious bit for the difficulty tiers.
It's cute. I like it.
But it's cute. Yeah, exactly. I love it. It's like it's perfect is what it is. It's just such a subtle little thing. And when you think about it, there have been so many iterations of the Spider-Man comics. Like that is a match made in heaven there. It's perfect. It's wonderful. I love it. And Ultimate's like the most logical progression.
Ultimate literally means final. So there you go.
Fingers crossed this is the fucking final. Because I
Difficulty.
thought I played on easy. I thought normal was fine.
Wait, easy or easy? You played on amazing, right? You
I played on the lowest difficulty.
played on friendly?
Yeah.
You baby.
Well, here's the thing. I played on normal for a bit, and it quickly became apparent to me that enemy AI wasn't necessarily any better. It wasn't. It was just the numbers were bigger, and it took a lot longer to kill somebody. And that's just, I'm like, I don't need that. That's irritating. So I can't imagine playing it on Spectacular, let alone Ultimate.
Yeah, you're probably just fighting a bunch of sponges and your fists are made of paper.
Yeah, it's like, that's not fun to me. And so I do want to play New Game Plus with all my powers, with my costumes and everything. I do want to do that just to like be very linear and play through the entire story back to back to back.
Right, yeah,
and just get
Beeline
through it
story.
and experience that again because I love the game. And I've been needing a reason to kind of jump back in. I just want to swing around and do some stuff. The DLC comes out tomorrow. That's great. So tomorrow, that's what I'll be doing.
For exactly 2.5 days
I mean, you know.
till you download Red Dead. Or are you going to buy it physical?
I am not buying Red Dead until I beat God of War. And God of War, I hope to beat before November. Like, it's my goal because, like, I'm on
You totally can. I mean, if you dedicate like a few hours a night, you totally can.
I know I can. It's just a matter of actually doing it. And my thing is like, I finally quit. Like, I'm not going to platinum that game.
Oh, no. That's not a game that you would want to platinum.
No, I imagine it's not.
Especially if you don't like the combat.
Yeah, I initially I was all like excited to like, oh, platinum, like I'm gonna start fucking trophy hunting and just platinum all these. I'm gonna go back to Horizon and like, no, that was a flash in the pan. Like my collector's mentality took over. No, I platinum Spider-Man because I love the game and it was easy and fun and whatever. I'm not platinum God of War. I'm not going back to Horizon. I'm not gonna platinum fucking Red Dead Redemption. Not gonna happen.
Oh,
but
God, no.
but God of War, the reason I'm playing the game is because of the story, because of the characters. So I'm just going to mainline it. I'm going to gold path that shit. I'm going to leave all the collectibles for somebody else. It's not for me. I'm just going to get through this story and wrap that up before I jump into another big experience. However, that endeavor will be delayed because Spider-Man comes out this week. So hopefully that first bit of DLC, hopefully all 3 of these DLC packs it's not just like one mission. And I think about the missions in that game, like the side missions. Like I hope it's not that. I hope it's a meaty, like a good
like a
6
chapter.
Yeah, like a good. I want like a 6 or 8 hour and that's probably asking way too much, honestly.
Probably, especially if it's split out into 3 different parts. I would probably guess that's closer to like a 3 or 4 hour kind of experience. Probably a little bit of wiggle room based on how well you do, how challenging it is. Like, is this post game difficulty content, or is it more of a story, or like what is it? Like I don't even know exactly what it is yet. I saw a review or a preview pop up on Destructoid, so I didn't look at that. But if you wanted to check that out, that might be up your alley.
I'm gonna peep it. They also did a few other things with the patch. They upped the health cap to 250, I believe. Fixed a few bugs, and like you said, they added stickers for the photo mode. One of which is the puddles,
Yes.
That's great.
Now you can be an aspiring game developer and fix the problems in Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah, I love that team over at Insomniac. They're great. I watched several interviews with the director of the game,
Brian Intihar.
The guy is such a bro. He's just he's high strung, right? Which I totally relate to.
He's a creative type, definitely.
Right, but not in he's not a pretentious.
Oh no, not like artsy fartsy. I just mean like he's just one of those like high energy dudes that you'd see like, oh, is he an actor or a director? Like, what is he? He's like, he's got all these ideas and he just wants to do them all.
Yeah, you could definitely tell he's like one of us who worked his way up, and now he's the director of this huge video game, and it's very interesting. I can really relate to the guy. Whereas sometimes you watch interviews with these guys, or like someone like me who's does film and whatnot. And I watch interviews with directors, and it's like, I relate to actors, directors, any of those people, like 0%.
Right.
I watch even like the guys I love the most. I just watched one with Taika Waititi who did,
What We Do in the Shadows and Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thor being the most recent one, but yeah, he did, Eagle versus Shark.
Oh yeah. Cause he's buddies with the Flight of the Conchords dudes. New Zealand, it's a very small country.
Right. Yeah, all the famous people.
It's just an island.
They actually live together. It's a commune.
There you go.
But even with him, it's like he's hilarious and adorable, and I think brilliant, and I like his work quite a bit. But like even listening to him talk, I'm like, I just don't relate to any of these people. Again, going back to this guy, he directed Spider-Man. I listen to him talk. I'm like, man, that's like, I just feel like if that was me, like I totally get this guy, like on every level, like his neuroticism and his anxiety and his passion and his energy, and he's a funny fucking guy. I watched this rapid fire Q&A with him, and he's fucking funny. And
dude, seriously, props to Game Informer. Those features are really cool. Yeah. I don't know if you watched the one with the dude from Dreams, but they just asked like a million different questions to that guy, and that was a very entertaining kind of interview sort of format, I guess you would say.
I have not watched that specific one, but yeah, I agree.
Shouts out. Props where props are due.
Golf clap, my guy. Oh, there we go.
Golf snap.
Fucking jazz hands.
Like a beat poet.
So anyway, Spider-Man. Great. We'll update you on that next week. We never really did a proper review of Spider-Man. We drunkenly rambled about it, but...
that is as comprehensive of a review that we will ever do.
Which sucks because we did a pretty comprehensive review with Dre when he was down here and it was lost.
Yeah.
And will never be recovered, so...
Yeah, and even then, that wasn't very comprehensive because neither of you had beaten the game yet. It was just a very comprehensive list of the way you felt to like a third of the way through the game.
Yeah, fair. Anyway, last thing I want to get to here, unless you have anything you want to talk about specifically.
No, I mean, you chat about Mario. I still just need to bug you about playing Golden Sun, but now you're going to be distracted by 3 like huge AAA games on your PS4.
I know. Hey,
for the next until Smash Bros comes out, you're booked. So I can't imagine you even playing Golden Sun.
Thank you for reminding me.
6 weeks out from Smash Bros, by the way.
Dog, I completely
helpful reminder.
I completely forgot to request time off for that. I have you
better do it like now.
I just requested time off for the beach trip and then one day for a concert. I really need to work out my schedule because I want to take the week before Christmas off. and just have like 9 days.
I'll be doing that also. And then the week between Christmas and New Year's, I usually take off because that's like 3 days with the way my work schedule works out.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to, I don't know what my company gives as far as days off. So I have to figure that out this week and figure out that week. But I want to take the Friday off so that I can come up and do the whole Smash Bros thing and just like midnight release.
Hell yeah. I need you with me at Best Buy. We need to come, roll deep and pick that up together.
Dude, like, I mean, we did that last time,
I'm probably going to cancel my pre-order for the Smash Bros controller. I don't know if I really need that, the Pro controller.
Here's the thing. If it goes back up on Best Buy, you should cancel your pre-order across the board, and you should order the Steelbook limited edition with the controller with the discount. It's like $100.
Yeah, I worked it out. I don't think it's any cheaper.
Dog, I'm getting the game and the controller for $100. The controller's $70.
I'm gonna need a fact check on that because I don't know.
I'm gonna pull up right now for you.
Yeah, do it live because I also I don't want the Steelbook. I don't need that.
But it's just like you're getting a $60 game and a $70 controller for $100. Like it's just value.
Or I could spend just $48 and not get the controller if I don't want the controller. You know.
I guess if you really don't want the controller, but
I'm torn.
In my estimation, it was like a money thing. All right, it's a value proposition. Like, do I'm a
sucker for that good plus, that plus sign? You know what I'm saying? The Smash Bros. Plus.
I mean, it's a beautiful controller with the black and white. Like that's totally your aesthetic. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I would like it and I would use it. It's just how many controllers do I need?
Well, you have one Pro controller.
Yes.
It doesn't hurt to have two Pro controllers, brother. I don't know my fucking Best Buy password.
Like the 8BitDo SNES Pro controller, and that's functionally identical to a Pro controller. I just can't turn the console on with it. Which, honestly, why don't they do that? Why can't you just do that?
That's a really good question.
Bums me out. I mean, you can't even turn your console on with your Pro controller for some reason.
Dude, I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't know my Best Buy password. How do I do this every time where I forget my fucking password?
You gotta try one of your 5 passwords that you rotate through that just have different numbers at the end.
I got an alert one day saying that my order is ready for pickup, and I said, listen, I know I pick up or I order something every week, but I already picked my order up this week. I don't know what. And I go and look, and someone had ordered like a fucking $1,000 worth of camera gear. And I was like, that's also weird because under normal circumstances, that would be me.
I would do that too.
But it was some fucking Asian ass dude. Like,
are you sure you weren't just like really drunk and you like
100% positive
yourself?
100% positive. It was some very Chinese person in California picking it up in California. And so I went in, canceled the order, changed my password.
Called the cops.
Well, you know, if I was smart, I would have not canceled the order. Called the Best Buy, warned them, called the cops, and said this guy is trying to rob.
Identity theft / robbery.
I would have been like, he's trying to rob Best Buy. Hurry up and go to there. and really would let the guy get fucked over. But inside it, whatever. I canceled it, changed everything. Fuck that guy. So I don't know my password anymore.
Well, that's what you get for logging into bestbuy.chi.
I'm resetting my fucking password again. Email verification. Use my Google account. Sure, that's fucking fine. This is riveting. This is riveting content, fellas. My passwords match. Great. Okay, Smash Bros. Steelbook.
So the bundle was the bundle's $130, isn't it?
The bundle default with the Steelbook and the Pro controller and the Nintendo Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Collector Coin, Antique Silver.
Oh, finally.
Is $139.99. Okay,
so
and I am getting it for $101.99.
Are you sure it's not because you applied?
It would have been $111.99. I had a $10 reward certificate.
Yeah, $112. I mean, if you think about it, that's cheaper than a Pro controller and the game because you're getting the discount on the hardware, and you don't usually get a discount on hardware. Which is weird. I figured that a bundle wouldn't be able to discount fully either, but
because it has the game included, I mean, I don't know if that was an oversight on their part or if it's just, well, the game's included. It's not a console.
It might be because I don't think they apply that for like special edition, like super special editions that come with like the maps and they got the big box. But I could be completely wrong.
No, they totally do. Yep, got my Fire Emblem Special Edition.
Yeah, no wonder they're canceling that program. They must have been bleeding money from that.
No, honestly though, I mean, yeah, that was...
Those things are packed full of crap so they can charge you a bunch and actually have a decent overhead on there.
I think I got both my Fire Emblem Special Editions. One for, well, I guess both games I haven't played. The last 2 Fire Emblem games I haven't played.
Oh, yeah, Conquest and whatever.
Dude, honestly, Awakening was such an awakening for me, Nick.
Oh,
I was trying to find it.
waiting for you to jump on that one.
I was trying to wait for. I was like, good descriptor. No, it's like, honestly, it was just like it opened my eyes, man. It was such a revelatory experience.
Wait, wasn't the one after that Fire Emblem Revelations? Was that part of the whole? Honestly, wasn't that?
Yeah, my bad.
Okay,
that's funny. I had such a good time with it, and I played through it once, and I played through it again and like min-maxed it and did like the optimal route. I love the game so much. Like going into a game that looked just like it and sounded just like it and smelled just like it, it really felt more derivative than anything, and it was hard for me to get into. So maybe with enough space, I can go back to it and appreciate it for what it is.
Nah, dog, just let it die. Just wait till the next Fire Emblem. It should be coming out in spring.
Dude, fingers crossed. We don't get a delay. But here we go, Nick. Last bit before we call it quits. We have some listener mail from our homeboy Leaf Jaden.
And where did he send that listener mail to?
So you can reach us at feedback@consolecrusade.com. Of course, if you want to tweet at us, it's at console_crusade. You can find Nick at Press Till Death. I am at eJiggle. Please, we're not begging for reviews here. We're not begging for stars. All right, my guys. We're just little engagement.
Although, I mean, if you want to give me a star, I'll take, Starman's, get that infinite life. Take any kind of star. Stars are cool.
Any kind of stars.
Mail me a sticker. I won't give you my address, but maybe I'll get a P.O. box.
Yeah, right. Now, you can leave us a review, and that would be infinitely helpful and great for our egos. But we're more concerned with engagement than, the Console Crusade install base. You know what I mean?
Right.
So chat with us. Hit us up on social media. Send us an email. We will read your email on the pod or your tweet on the pod, and we'll, have a laugh, talk some shit. So this one from Leaf, who's responding, of course, to the last podcast. He said, "Hey, Console Crusade, love the pod. I especially like your recent segments in your podcast in which you guys act out a sketch or two. Like when you two pretended that you kept disconnecting from the internet and edited the voices to sound like you were calling one another. It started to feel a little too played up because of how long the bit went for, but kudos for trying to make it seem as realistic as possible to bring the audience in." All right, that's the first paragraph. Let me just say, that was not a bit. That was as real as could possibly be, where the internet would cut out and we actually called each other on speakerphone.
Yep, it was a bad time. I was not happy.
However,
however, I think that first paragraph that Leaf typed out, that was a bit.
Yeah, he's trying to just be a piece of shit.
Trying to get your goat.
He's trying to get my goat. I will say, as far as there is an element to that experience, Nick, on the last podcast that was a bit because you were still recording your audio. So technically I did have your clean audio throughout the whole thing.
And both of our phone audios, because I put you on speakerphone too.
Right. So the raw audio, which I still have, it's a total mess because you hear both of us talking, but then both of us echoing on speakerphone at each other's mics. It's a fucking mess. So it took a lot of editing.
Audio nightmare.
Yeah. But that's as real as can be. And I cut out quite a bit of the speakerphone conversation. I just cut the parts in that were maybe a little bit entertaining for me.
I mean, not to mention, I think that we recorded probably like an hour and a half, and you trimmed that down to like an hour because of how long it was taking for me to like reset my modem and for it to like reconnect for me and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So that's as raw as it gets, brother. Just about. But anyway, he goes on to say, "I'd like to suggest that for your next story-driven segment, you make the characters EJ and Nick fall in love. I definitely ship those two the most. I have written extensive fan fictions of this if you need something to reference to. In one of them, I wrote how these two loved each other so passionately that they broke up their current relationships for each other. In quote, or in parentheses, EJ leaving his girl and Nick leaving his nihilism. Anyways, keep up the great work. Send for my email."
Yeah, that little boomer signature at the end of his email.
I like to think that Leaf's signature is not "sent for my email," and he typed that out to add to
I like that too. That's my
head canon.
I shipped that.
That's fucking funny. So anyway, that's great, Leaf. Thanks for writing that in.
Yeah, go ahead and if you have your own erotic friend fiction of EJ and Nick, go ahead and send that to feedback@consolecrusade.com.
It's like a fucking reading.
Because I don't want your 280 character, trimmed down Cliff Notes friend fiction. I need depth. All right.
Right. We're trying. This is down arcs. And dirty. Right. Exactly. Oh, that's good, Nick. That's good. Well, thanks for just, like I said, meandering with me. This was a
slow week. Pretty much only thing of consequence was just more people talking about Red Dead. Black Ops came out.
Yeah.
Neither of us play Call of Duty, so
no.
Hey,
man, the newest commercial for that game was enticing. Isn't the right word? I was not enticed by it, but I was impressed by it. It wasn't enough that I'm going to be like, I'm going to go play that fucking game. But I was like, oh yeah, that looks like a well-rounded experience.
Did you nab Black Ops 3 when that was free on PS Plus?
No, man, I haven't nabbed a PS fucking Plus game in so long. I missed all the good ones 3 years ago, and it really hasn't been much since.
I think you could do it from the mobile app.
I wish they would just auto flag it for me. Like, it's just, come on.
Yeah, but they want your engagement. That's the purpose of the free game, is to get you to look at the games.
Can I tell you, though? I'd be a lot more engaged if they told me every time I turn my PlayStation on that there are new PS Plus games, click here to go to the store. I don't think about it. So months will go by, and I'm like, oh, I should go flag those games. And I might flag a few, and then I miss a ton. And then I read, oh, last month's games were such and such. And I was like, fuck, I missed it. Like, if you like ping me, I'll fucking go to your store, and I'll click on whatever you want. But
I think I've seen it on my front page before. I definitely know they pimp it out on the store if you open up the store, but that's not like what you do every time you turn your console on. So
if they would send me a notification, because my PlayStation gets used every day for either Netflix or games or Blu-rays or whatever. If I get notified, or even on my phone, I've got the mobile app, ping me. I'll fucking go do it. I'll go take a look at your sales and whatever, but you got to remind me.
Right.
And there were very few PS Plus games that I actually play. I think Super Meat Boy is one I've played quite a bit. Transistor, I almost beat before I just stopped playing it. So yeah, it's like, let me know and I'll happily engage. But I don't have
it's funny, the two games you gave me ended up being PS Plus games, so I don't even need the discs anymore.
Bloodborne and Ratchet and Clank.
Yep.
I do want my Ratchet and Clank back. You can keep the Bloodborne, but I eventually want to actually beat Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, just remind me and I'll throw that back at you.
Yeah. Well, I'm back in Portland this weekend. So Saturday night, maybe we do a little in-person podcast. How you feel about that?
I could do that, I think. If we have anything to talk about by then, you plan on playing the Spider-Man DLC, I guess, and then maybe you'll get around to more God of War. You're probably not going to touch Golden Sun. That's a lost cause. I know for a fact you're not going to play Golden Sun.
I made a promise, and I follow through on my promises. So we will be doing a Golden Sun podcast, whether that's next month or next year. I don't know, but we will be doing it. I promise you.
Really opened up that door.
Before the end of the year, Nick. Nick, before the end of the year, we will do a podcast in which we discuss Golden Sun, and I will have played it. How's that?
I just don't want you to make, I don't want you to say things that you can't take back.
Nick.
All right. I'm giving you an out right now. I'm saying, I know how you do. I know you do what you do, and the way you do is probably not going to be playing Golden Sun.
Okay, worst case scenario is I say end of year. So what happens is the week before Christmas, I take off from work and you take off from work, and I come to your house, I sit on your bed and I play it while you play Switch, and it's going to happen. But one way or the other, it's going to happen.
I like your attitude.
Boom.
I hope it happens.
Bazinga.
Pretty cool.
This has been the Console Crusade podcast. Like I said, you can find us on social media. Please do it.
I'm trying to think of a good way to do a spooky ka-chow to get people to tune in to our Halloween episode next week.
Ooh, ka-chow.